Good morning. This is Kelley Hobart from Alpaca Direct, and I'm here with Sydney. She was my little Christmas present, and she's a little mini Australian Shepherd, and she is already getting big. She says hello to all of you out there. Isn't she cute? Sydney's working on her potty training, and she is learning all kinds of good things, aren't you, Sid?
What's she learning? What tricks are you trying?
She knows sit. She knows down. She spins to the left and spins to the right. And she has done the shake a couple of times already. And she walks along with the dogs a mile a day and follows right in the heel position, actually right behind my heel. She's not exactly in the correct position. We need to work on that. She likes to follow right behind my heel, but she's doing great, and she's such a sweetheart. So I will give her to, okay, wiggle worm. I'm going to give her to Heidi. So all of you say goodbye to Sydney. All right. Thank you, Heidi.
My job's so tough.
Yes. So this morning I thought I would I'm working on this pattern. I just started it yesterday. It's called A Walk Through the Aspens, and it's by Kalurah Hudson. And it is a nice big shawl scarf type thing, and I wanted to make mine as wide as hers, but I wanted to make it with Bravo alpaca, which is this lovely stuff here. It's made in Peru, 100% baby alpaca, and I love it. It's so soft that I wanted to make a scarf. But I wanted it to be the same width as in the pattern, because the pattern calls for an Aran weight yarn, which is heavier than my light worsted weight Bravo alpaca yarn. So I wanted to go over how I changed my stitch count so that it could have the same width. So
everyone here is saying Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you too. Oh, it's so wonderful. I'm looking forward to our new year. My husband has his new knee, and he is, yes, well, he got his second new knee, and it was giving him some grief for a little bit, and we got a little bit slower start than with the last knee, and now he's starting to feel better in the last 2 days, and I'm so excited because we will get some freedom soon, right, Jim?
Yep.
And soon we'll be able to go hiking with the dogs, and we'll be able to get back to our normal life, and he'll feel so much better, because his arthritis in his knee was horrible. So he was having a real hard time walking. So we're looking for a new lease on life here pretty soon coming up. So every week we offer a price, and for this last week it was for some lovely Expedition, the boot socks, and Extreme boot socks, and it's our heaviest sock that we sell, and we were going to do a medium in the brown colorway or large in the gray heather colorway, and I didn't know which one. Did you know which one was the price for this week?
The gray large.
The gray large. Nice. This is a nice color, and these are nice. Oh my goodness, if you haven't worn these before, they are so lovely. That alpaca is self-insulating, and it creates a soft, fluffy, super warm sock. It's my favorite. I love it so much. And then for this week, I was thinking that we could offer for a price, since I'm working with this yarn, that we could do like a teal colorway in the Bravo alpaca, 100% baby alpaca, or in the charcoal colorway. And I'm doing the charcoal because the person that I'm going to be giving this to likes black and neutral colors. So I was going to make that for her and do some matching gloves. So teal or charcoal for this week. And whatever color you think I should send out for next week, you guys vote on it. And then you get entered to win for next week. And you get some to help us decide which one we should send out in the mail, so the person can get the product that you like best.
There's some new people, and they're asking, how do they enter into the contest?
So how Jim said, how do you enter into the contest? And so the way you do that is you post comments in the comment section. Hey, if you're working on a great pattern, if you can post the name of the pattern in the comment section and maybe the name of the designer, and I use those comments to help me guide myself through future Technique Tuesdays, and gives me great ideas for future projects that we can knit for ourselves.
And the knit club too.
Yes, and for the knit club, that's right. If people are very interested in a certain topic, I like to include that in a project for a knit club, so that they can learn the new skills, whatever they might be. So I wanted to take a second, Jim, And I want to go over this, A Walk Through the Aspens. And so for my ideas for knitting, I did it on the chart, but you could also do it for the written instructions. So I wanted to show you here what I did with mine when I knit mine. So if you look at this pattern, it's called A Walk Through the Aspens by Kalurah Hudson, and it's While They Play Designs. And it is such a fantastic pattern. And here is the chart for it. And if you look down here at the bottom, it has a ribbing section. And then you would repeat this part in orange over and over and over until you get to almost done with your scarf or shawl, whatever you want to call it. And then you would finish off with this top section here. And so what I chose to do for mine, it tells me to cast on 62 stitches. And what I did is this center cable, if you look at the picture of her scarf, this is the center cable that I'm talking about. I chose to knit this section twice. And how I did that is I just kind of chose a good beginning and stopping point. And you can see along here that the cables end right on this section on both sides. And that gave me an extra 22 stitches because my yarn was, I'm using a little bit smaller needle than it calls for, which in the pattern, it calls for a US number 9, and I'm using a number 6 needle. So I chose to cast on 22 more stitches. So 62 stitches was the original cast on amount, and then plus 22. And then all I do when I'm knitting along on this right-sided row is I would knit over to here, and then I knit this section twice, knit it once, knit it twice, and then I continue on to the end of the row.
So that's the extra 22 stitches?
Yes, that's extra. That's how easy it is. And if you look at my pattern, here is my pattern right here that I have just started. And you could see my stitch markers up here. Do you see the stitch markers? This is the cable pattern being repeated twice. And you could see it right here. It's kind of hard to see on this dark yarn, but the person that I'm gifting this project to loves black. And so I wanted to do it in the dark gray heather because I feel like it's guaranteed to be something that she would enjoy. And it would keep her warm. So anyway, so that is my pattern. The only things I did change is on the edge, I slipped the last stitch with the working yarn in front, and it gives this really nice edge to the garter stitch, which is nice. And you can see down here on the bottom that it has ribbing, and it's just going to be a really nice project to do. So some other things that you could do if you're doing this pattern, say you're using a thicker yarn, it says if you're using a thinner yarn than the pattern calls for, you could possibly hold 2 strands together. So you could take your yarns and knit with them with 2 strands held together to make it thicker. I could have done that if I wanted to. The thing is that this pure alpaca, baby alpaca, is super warm, and I don't need it any bulkier than this because it's already super warm. If I made it bulkier, it might be something that she would like to look at, but maybe not something that's quite as enjoyable to wear, just because it is so warm, you know? And if you look here, the finished product, according to the pattern, which is using the thicker yarn, is 14 inches wide. And you can see here with I'm almost at 12 inches wide, and it's not blocked yet. So it's going to be just about perfect dimensions for increasing those 22 stitches. Gave me just about the same width of the scarf as with the original yarn, which is more like this weight. It's more like an Aran weight. And this is considered a worsted weight, but this knits up pretty heavy, more like an Aran weight. Where this yarn right here, my pure alpaca yarn, this yarn is pretty thin.
So if they have a bunch of yarn in a stash, this is a good thing to do too. So they could use the yarn.
You can use the yarn that you already have at home, yes, and make a beautiful project. And so this Sueno tweed is more the a lighter weight yarn, and you could double that yarn if you wanted to. Or if you wanted to use a really chunky yarn, and I don't usually recommend using multicolor like this for a bunch of cable work because you kind of want your cable work to show, although it'd be fine, whatever works. As long as you're happy with it, that's what I think you should do. Who am I to say what it works for you? You should absolutely use what makes you happy. But I think for a yarn like this, since this is even thicker weight than what the pattern calls for, you could do something so simple as, see in this picture how it has the garter stitches on the edge? You could just leave one stitch on the edge, a regular slip stitch on the edge, and get rid of all the garter stitch, and it would decrease the size so that you could possibly do it with this chunky weight yarn. All you have to do is, I think the garter stitches, if you look here, the garter stitch is 4 stitches on each side, so that would get rid of 4 stitches. You could absolutely do that very easily, and use a chunky weight yarn. It might be a little bit over, and you could also use on your chunky weight yarn, use the smaller needle size. So on this one, it says US 10.5. Usually it gives you an upper needle size and a lower needle size that works with the yarn. But I think that you can get away with a number 9 needle on this thicker yarn and then get it more into the 14 inches wide for your project. So it's kind of up to you. I just think that being able to take a pattern and make it the width that the pattern calls for, which is 14 inches wide, and use different yarns that you already have at home. Don't you think, Jim?
Mm-hmm.
It makes for a really nice project. And then it's more the dimensions that she has in the picture. I kind of like that it's kind of wide like that, and I'm looking forward to being able to squish it together and with this Bravo alpaca. And I could even have put it on a smaller needle. I have it on a number 6 right now and made it even a little bit tighter because alpaca is such a drapey yarn. You can put it on a smaller needle size and still not have it get stiff. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So you could consider doing that too. But I think this is going to be really pretty when it's done, and it looks pretty nice on both sides. I mean, you can, because of the darker color, it actually looks pretty nice. And I like this multi-tonal, how it has some little white flecks in it, and then it has the gray with it. I really like this yarn. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make gloves that match it, and I'm going to use this center panel piece on the for the gloves to keep to give the alpaca so it has some stretch in it. If you use cables and or ribbing, anything like that, it gives a little bit of structure to your finished project. So like for gloves where it might stretch out and be a little bit loosey-goosey, if you put this panel of cables on it, it prevents it from stretching out so much. And I'm going to take a needle that's much smaller when I do the gloves to kind of see how this is kind of holy in it. I'm going to close up those holes and make it tighter, put it on a tighter gauge so that it works nice. But yeah, I totally am excited to see how this is going to look when it's finished. And I think it'll be a wonderful gift for my family member that I'm making it for. But yeah, this is a great pattern. So if you're thinking about making a pattern and you want to make the pattern the same width as it shows in the pattern that you're referring to, you can consider just taking out some stitches or adding some stitches depending on whether or not your yarn is thicker than what the pattern calls for or thinner than what the pattern calls for. So for me, I added 22 stitches, but if you had a thicker yarn like this chunky weight yarn, you could take out a few stitches too and make it a little bit smaller so it'd still be a nice project to use.
Tell them about those alpaca gloves, because you remember you wear them on the walks.
Yes, and I don't have them with me. I made alpaca gloves, and out of it's the same colorway. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the only thing I did is when I made my gloves out of this pure alpaca, I didn't put any pattern on it. I just did stockinette stitch, so it's kind of loosey-goosey. But I'm telling you, it has gotten up to like down to -4.
-5.
Or so. And I've been walking the puppy every single day. And matter of fact, one of the days I had to unzip my jacket and take off my gloves because I was too warm. And that was my fault because I know better than using alpaca socks, alpaca hat, alpaca gloves. And by then you're blowing steam out your ears. One time my sister, I don't know if I told you guys this story, but one time my sister, we had made her leg warmers. And she had an alpaca hat and leg warmers. And she went into the mall doing the day after Christmas shopping, right? And she didn't wash her hair, so she couldn't take her hat off. And she was so hot. She had sweat dripping down the side of her face. It was too funny because she was wearing her alpaca socks, her alpaca leg warmers, and her alpaca hat in a mall. And like, I would never do that because I know better than that. But anyway, it's kind of cute. And my sister is very sweet. And yeah, it was pretty cute. Anyway, made me laugh. Still makes me laugh. So any of you out there that are cold, you should try alpaca because it's hollow core and it's fabulous. So let's look and see who the winner is for this week. Karen Kingsbury Bauer. Yay, Karen, look what you won. You won these Expedition, the extreme boot socks, and these are my favorite boot socks. So Karen, all you have to do is get in contact with customer service at Alpaca Direct, and we just need your shipping address so that we can send you out these socks, and I'm sure that you'll enjoy them. So that's wonderful. Congratulations. And for the rest of you who want to join in and possibly win something for next week, don't forget to vote on teal or charcoal Bravo alpaca, baby alpaca from Peru. And we will send out one of these lovely skeins to the winner for next week.
And that's our own private label.
Yes, it's our private label yarn. And we are very proud of the fact that it is made in Peru by wonderful people who the factory there is just fantastic. It's not that easy to work with alpaca. So the people in Peru that can do that, and they have the correct machines, they've been doing it for like hundreds of years, right? Mm-hmm. And so they're really good at it. So if you get a chance to try that alpaca yarn, I'm sure you're going to love it. So this next week, I wanted to talk possibly about how to make fingers on your gloves less pointy, because a lot of times when people make gloves for the top of their fingers, the top of your finger gets pointy. It looks funny. So I wanted to show you a little trick or two that I use to keep my fingers from looking funky when I'm doing the alpaca gloves or making it out of wool or whatever you want. It works for any kind of fiber. So
perfect fingers?
Yes. Perfect fingers for your gloves. Perfect finger tips for the top of the fingers. Yes. Okay. Mm-hmm. So I hope all of you are enjoying the new year so far. And I will see you next Tuesday.